My friends, Loki Season 2, Episode 4 may have just given us one of the best and most important episodes in Marvel TV history. Things got extremely dark, and it ended on one of the craziest cliffhangers imaginable. These are very exciting times in the MCU, and we need to talk about it. So what's up, everyone, and welcome back to Jones Vibes. Hit the like button if you're from a branched timeline, and let's dive in. So off the top, I just want to say that every episode from this season has yet to disappoint me. I've pretty much been blown away every single week, but nothing can compare to this episode. I was listening to the Across the Spoilerverse podcast. I highly recommend it, by the way. But they were talking about how they received this episode early, and they were just talking about how crazy it was. And so I've kind of been eagerly and anxiously waiting for this one. But now it's here, and I'm very, very interested to hear what you have to say about it. Please let me know down in the comments, because personally, I'm floored right now. There was just so much going on, so many great moments. I guess I'll just kind of dive straight in talking about some of my favorite moments. The first one that I can think of is when Victor Timely arrives at the TVA, and he turns around and all he sees is his face. And then we have this entire sequence of him kind of freaking out as everyone surrounds him and tries to calm him down. And this kind of had me on edge, because it's insane to think about what's taking place inside his mind. He's seeing something in real time that he built, he's responsible for it, but he hasn't built it yet, or that's what he's kind of coming to understand. And I'll talk more about this, but there's a lot of that. This Ouroboros effect. You had the moment with Obi and Victor, and Mobius and Loki are asking the question, who actually wrote the handbook? It's like the chicken and the egg, except they're humans. But this episode really picks up, the pace really picks up when Ravonna and Miss Minutes arrive at the TVA, and they try and recruit Docs, Brad, and the Minutemen. But this ended up being, and I think I can say this in confidence, probably the most gruesome scene that I've seen within the MCU. It's not gruesome, visually, but it's just what happens in this moment. The device that they use earlier in the season on X5 to kind of intimidate them, they use that and they take everybody and they smush everybody together until there's nothing, and you can hear it happening. It was absolutely terrifying. And the only person that doesn't get smushed is Brad. And I don't know, how can you blame him, In a sense, there's a lot of honor to what Docs is doing, what the rest of them are doing, but Brad just wants to be a movie star again, man. Don't we all? But during this picking up of the pace section, kind of this middle chunk of the episode, there was a scene that really showcased some strong performances for me, and also just great writing. Specifically the stuff between Loki, Sylvie, and Mobius. There's the moment where Sylvie kind of rips into Mobius and his cowardly way of going about life, not wanting to know what his actual life looks like and kind of just living with the blinders on. And I kind of found that heartbreaking, but that then leads Loki into kind of going after Sylvie, and then we have this confrontation. And just this conversation going back and forth in front of the wall of key lime pies, I found it so interesting just because they're talking about power and what is morally right or wrong here. I especially like the moment, and I can't remember exactly what she says, but Sylvie says something along the lines of, "Wouldn't we just be playing gods then?" And Loki responds with, "We are gods." And that statement right there was so powerful, yet confusing, because I think that this show is doing an excellent job, or has done an excellent job, at turning Loki into sort of a hero, but maybe he's always destined to end up on the other side of that coin. You know what I mean? Could these good intentions lead him right back to where he started? I mentioned we'd get back to it, but the snake eating its own tail. It's just a theme throughout this entire season. And sticking to that theme, we then head into the next chunk of the episode. And guys, I'm actually pretty proud of myself with this one, because I have concrete evidence that I got a theory right for once.
And the present is going to catch up to this future moment, and Loki is going to be the one that is pruning himself.
It was pretty obvious, but it was just cool to see that it was Loki in the future with the pruning stick. Boom. Solved. But something that surprised me was just the pure emotion from this moment. You got the feeling that Loki was genuinely scared to do that to himself. Even though he knows that it has to be done, it still seems like a tough decision. And seeing it play out just from a different vantage point, I just thought that was so cool. But then moving forward, what did you guys think of Miss Minutes and Ravonna dying pretty much. Or who knows? I really don't know what to make of this because I just highly doubt that they're going to be getting rid of Miss Minutes as well as Ravonna. I just doubt either of them are like gone. But it's kind of all the same for all the characters because then, yeah, like, wow, we get to this ending and this was the craziest, most unexpected thing that could have happened. Victor Timely volunteers to be the one to go and try to save the day, you know? But instead, as soon as he steps foot onto the bridge, he just gets ripped apart, very reminiscent to Ant-Man being kind of torn apart in Quantumania. Very similar kind of strings ripping apart like string cheese. And that was just so out of nowhere and honestly kind of sad, like another Kang bites the dust. Poor Victor, he had no idea. He just had no idea. And then just the hopelessness in the room once that happens. Like the episode all of a sudden became so heavy. They all slowly realize that this is the end and the loom explodes and they all seemingly die. But that's the big question. Where does this go from here? Do they die or do all of them go somewhere else? It's not so much a spoiler because there's clearly just been promotional material already out there showing everybody's character past this point in the season. And so this is where the speculation begins. I feel like we're going to see Mobius ride a jet ski, man. Like we can't finish this season without seeing him do that. But regardless, please leave all of your theories and your questions down in the comments so we can kind of just start this discussion as we look forward to another episode of Loki next week. I'm really at a loss as to what's going to be happening, so I would love to hear what you think. Also, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button if you enjoyed this episode. That support goes a long way for me. And if you want to keep up with me on X, I'm at Jones Vibes Only. And please remember to keep up the good vibes, guys. But what is really happening here? I guess we'll see.